Howdy-ho, Andrew here, aka Kelp here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of my Sunday gaming video. So I was scrounging through videos and I was watching Asmongold and he did a react video off of Tim Cain, the original creator developer of Fallout games. And now I love Fallout, obviously. Fallout belt buckle or belt, Fallout lunch pail. Yeah, I love Fallout, but I'm not a big supporter of Bethesda anymore, and it's getting less and less as we go on. So I subscribed to his channel, and I started listening to some of his videos, and I like this guy. He's smart. And one thing about me, I like smart people. I like smart people, and I cannot lie. And he's smart. I see why he did so well in the early days of game development. And as you know about me, I am a huge RPG fan. RPG is my go-to games. So he came out with this video on RPGs and I had to watch it. And after watching it, it's like, I have to make a video, react video off of this. So that's what today's video is going to be. I'm going to play this 12 and a half minute video from Tim Cain and I'll jump in where I need to be. And I think anyone watching this is going to find it really interesting or better. So let's get started, shall we? Tim Cain on games, RPG features nobody asked for. I can think of a few games right off the bat that fall under this.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about RPG features nobody asked for. This is kind of a video for my fellow RPG game developers because I keep seeing these features in RPGs and I don't think anybody wants them. And I don't know what's going on. I'm wondering sometimes if there's a junior designer out there who's just never seen these features before, even though they've been in a lot of RPGs already. Or there's this designer that thinks, yeah, I've seen this done a lot, but this time I'm going to get it right. No, you're not.
So I think he's right on the first part. I think there's a lot of new developers that have never played games. We've seen this in this industry with activists. They come in and they want to change the industry to their political worldviews. They're not interested in gaming. They're interested in their political views. And whether that's what he means or not, I think he touched on that's what's happening in modern gaming. And we see this in all the studios, is the progressive messaging has gotten overboard and sales have been really hurting on these games. So who knows how long that's going to last. But yeah, it's a lot of it is people that they're not gamers and they're writing for games, but they're writing for the audience they want to write for. They're not writing for gamers. At least that's my take on it.
These features keep going into RPGs. They don't work. And I'm sure either QA complains about it or, oh my God, it ships. And then these bad reviews come out and then everybody's unhappy. The designer's unhappy. The company's unhappy. The game players are unhappy. I know I've mentioned before that whenever I go to work on a game, there's somebody, publisher, manager above me who goes, what's your hook? What's this game's hook? I consider these features we're going to talk about today anti-hooks. They're the exact opposite of hook. They don't draw people in. They push them away. In fact, a better question I think that you should ask someone working on a game is, are you adding any features that are going to make people rage quit? Because some of these things are rage quit material.
1000%. If you've watched any of my gaming videos, I absolutely detested my companions in Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda. I hated the guy in my headset on Anthem to the point that I did rage quit before I found out later that he's part of the story plot where he turns on you. I never made it that far. I could not take another minute of him in my ear. And I just turned the game off, said, I'm done. And then there's Veilguard, which I never played, but I can tell by the clips and what I've read that game would have, like the minute that monstrosity trash came out and said, I'm non-binary, I would have shut the game off instantly because that has nothing to do with Dragon Age. That's what I was saying earlier. That's all about special interest activists pushing their real world political agenda. And I'm not interested. I play games to escape the real world. And like Dragon Age Inquisition, I hated my companions, wanted to kill them all. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kill them all. I did not want them in my party, but I wasn't allowed to do that. So I rage quit. Like, I've tried to play Inquisition through 8 or 9 times. Never could, because of the companions. I detest them that much.
And also, I know this can be subjective, what these features are, and I also don't mean this list to be exhaustive. So I acknowledge both of those. But all of these are features that I have either never seen a single review or forum post go, gee, I wish that this RPG that I like also had this feature, or I've seen many, many, many people complain saying, I really would have liked this game, but it's got this feature. So let's talk about that. Let's go through some of these, and I'm going to offer solutions because I like to be positive about this. So for each one of them, I'm going to offer a solution to how to fix it, because otherwise I'd just be whining. So let's go through it. Let's start with the first one, and these are not in any particular order. Let's talk about formulaic NPCs.
Oh, yeah.
This covers a gamut of things. The sarcastic NPC, which I've mentioned before. The really judgmental NPC. The completely aloof and uncaring NPC. I've seen all of these.
Okay, I got to stop right there. I like sarcastic NPCs, but they got to be well written. They have to be smart, funny, sarcastic. If they're just being argumentative, that's argumentative. That's not really sarcastic. But there has been sarcastic NPCs that I've really enjoyed if they're well written. And that seems to be the caveat. Yeah, the aloof one, I couldn't care less, honestly. Too cool for school. Yeah, not interested. You know, he's right. He's right. There's I mean, it's going to change for everybody. I'm sure there's people out there that love aloof characters and hate sarcastic characters. I like sarcasm. I live my life with sarcasm. But again, it's got to be creative and it's got to be funny and smart. If it's just arguing, well, that's arguing. That's not sarcasm.
I've seen all of them done in all the different ways they can be done. And it just gets really tiresome to see them roll out over and over and over, where sarcasm or judgment is the entire NPC's personality. It's annoying. And more specifically, I hate when NPCs act a certain way and the PC isn't allowed to comment on it.
Okay, I hate that. I really do. One of my top 3 games of all time is Dragon Age Origins. And there was one character that I really liked, but I also really hated. And that was Zephyrin. Because Zephyrin was gay, and I didn't give a shit about that. But you could not be friends with him if you're a male character. You either had to be his gay lover or you had to kill him. There was no in between. And that I freaking hated, because I don't do gay romances in games. But I liked Zephyrin the character. I actually did. And I didn't give a shit that he was gay. He just wasn't going to be gay with me. But BioWare, and I think this was partially EA influence, because this was right, like EA stepped in about halfway through the development of Origin. So I think they were influencing BioWare at that point. But Zephyrin, it's like he had to push that progressive stuff, and you could not just be friends with him. And that drove me nuts, because I wanted to be friends with him. I wanted him on my team. I wanted him as a companion. I found him interesting. I found him compelling. I just didn't find him a viable romance option, especially not when I had Morrigan and Liliana there. So yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. It's like he was shoehorned into either this or this, and there's nothing in between, and that frickin' sucked.
Or better yet, kill the NPC. It's one of the reasons I like letting the player kill the NPC. Kill them. They won't bother you anymore. And
exactly. Like in Andromeda, I couldn't kill my companions. I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed to. Inquisition, I couldn't kill my companions. I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed to. In Anthem, I couldn't kill that annoying dweeb in my headset. God, did I want to. but I wasn't allowed to. So instead I rage quit. Well, no, I did actually finish Andromeda, but the other two games I'm done. I can't take this anymore. If you're going to write these annoying characters, then at least let me kill them. At least let me get a little bit of satisfaction that way.
You get rid of some of that pent up rage that somebody's thrown yet another sarcastic NPC at you. I'll give you an example, though, of something that happened to me in a game recently. I don't need to name games, but it happened. I was playing the game and I was asked to do a quest and I turned it down. One of my companions engaged me in conversation and went, "You're a coward." I wanted to reply, "I don't see you volunteering to do this." But instead I had some line like, "Oh, I didn't want to do it." Did it not occur to them that, if you're going to throw some line like that at the player, that they want to throw some of it back? And that's what I'm getting frustrated about, is I see a lot of NPCs and they can act a certain way and the player can't. Remember, I'm all about player agency, which I'm going to get into a lot in this video, I think. So what do I recommend here? Please do something new. There's a million ways of making characters. Take a class in how to write characters. I'm not even saying I'm good at it, but I know when I see bad ones. And even if you take a boilerplate NPC that you've already seen, and then you just do that NPC in a new way, like maybe there's something that's really got this person depressed, which is why they seem so uncaring. And then you discover, their child has been kidnapped and turned into a zombie. And if you can fix that, this may turn into the most joyful, happy NPC you've ever seen. But just do something. Just don't throw them out there as this flat, one-note character.
I agree with him. Absolutely. Character arcs is what he's talking about for your NPCs. And we've seen it in games like Tali in Mass Effect had a character arc. Quite an expansive character arc. Garrus, same thing. Like all the Mass Effect companions had character arcs. But in recent years, what you've seen is it's not about the character, it's about the agenda being displayed through the character. And I don't know if Tim is sugarfooting around that or doesn't want to address that. I don't know. But that's the way it looks to me, is these characters are one-dimensional because they're made to be one-dimensional to push a political message in the games, rather than have that character arc where you're downtrodden and miserable and, you go halfway through the game and then the quest, you start seeing light and hope and salvation and you rise. You don't get that in modern gaming. In modern gaming, you get monotone characters that are, because they're just pushing this one message, beating you over the head with this one message. One of us. One of us. And I'm not surprised that modern games are hurting financially because they keep doing this. So I agree with them 100% on character arcs, but I don't know if the modern developers are quite ready yet to grasp hold of that concept. You're still seeing a lot of pushback from the special interest groups like Sweet Baby Inc. and them, who are like, progressive. We must indoctrinate our gamers. But you have no gamers. Well, even if we only have 300, we got to indoctrinate them, And this seems to be the mentality going on from the studios right now.
Speaking of NPCs and quests I don't like, I don't think anybody on this channel is going to disagree with me on this one. Escort missions. You know what I'm talking about. The dreaded NPC who says, "Can you take me somewhere? I'll follow you."
There is only one escort mission I've ever liked in a video game, and that was in The Witcher 2. And it was right at the start of the game, or very close to the start. You do the opening sequence in the castle, and then you escape the castle, and you're on the ship, and then you escape the ship to the shore, and you're coming into the little fishing village with Roach and I think it was Roach and Trish, and the Scoia'tael starts shooting arrows at you, and Trish puts up a magical barrier, but you had to stay with her and move with her, and she would stop and catch her breath, and you had to move with her or get riddled with arrows. That's the only time I've liked a escort quest, because they're a pain. Usually the pathing sucks on the NPCs and causes you a ton of aggravation. He's correct. They're frustrating. I don't like doing them. I do them when I have to, and usually you do have to, but that's the only time I ever actually enjoyed an escort quest.
Or worse, they go ahead of you. And in either case, if the distance between you gets too far, sometimes the quest fails, or they just stop walking, which means if they're behind you and they stop walking and you get too far ahead of them, you have to go back and find them and keep going. And then they end up walking some weird path that's not even a normal person's way of walking between those two locations. And they walk by monster lairs, and the whole time they're doing it, they're talking the whole time, telling you things you possibly need to know that you can barely hear them because you're not right next to them. And also they for some reason walk at a speed slightly faster than your walk, but definitely slower than your run. So you just can't stay with them. You're constantly moving ahead and falling behind, and moving ahead and falling behind. It is aggravating. And I see this so much. I find it hard to believe that the designer who made it has never seen an escort quest and wasn't annoyed by them. So either they've never played an RPG in their entire life, or they somehow thought this escort quest will be fun, and they'll be wrong. The only fix I can think of for escort quests, instead of never doing them and excising that quest type from your quest tool chest as a designer, would be to, instead of escorting them, drive them, fly them, whatever. Make a vehicle that you can both get into, that you, the player, control, and then you take them to the destination. You can still maybe get into fights along the way. You can still occasionally have to stop because maybe someone's, knocked a tree down over the road and you need to get out and move it. And then maybe there's a little fight. You can still do those things you want to do, but it gets rid of all that pacing with the NPC that you have to keep track of. It's just super annoying. Please stop doing that.
So I have another solution, though he's right, a vehicle or a horse or whatever. But the other solution is, rather than walking, they hook onto you and you're literally dragging them. So they are moving at your speed. You're not moving at their speed. They're moving at your speed. That would solve a lot of the aggravation of a escort quest. Because let's face it, the problem with escort quests is he's right. They either move too fast for your walk or they move too slow for your run. So you're constantly jumping ahead, jumping behind, jumping ahead. And then when they do, they go off on these weird ass paths that you have no clue what the hell they're doing. It would be so much easier as okay, I'm taking you. It's kind of like tie a tether to yourself and you just drag them along as you go. That would solve that problem. They can still spew their entire story and everything, but they move at your speed. You don't move at their speed.
Which brings me into another thing. I mentioned the NPC talks all the time while you're walking along. Let's put that into the lore dump category of either cutscenes that are really long, that are just there to tell you things, or NPCs that stop talking with you and stop talking and start talking at you, and it's really long. Throw in to make either of those unskippable, and you have a lore dump nightmare. So I'm including in this, besides cutscenes, I'm including expository NPCs and lecture NPCs and just stuff that you have to sit and listen to and maybe can't even respond to in any way. And you're just like, oh, the designer's just talking at me right now. So aside from making it skippable, and that's a must, if you have unskippable cutscenes and unskippable NPC dialogues, that's a rage quit moment in my book for many RPGs. Your RPG better be flawless in every other way if you're going to do that.
So I disagree with him here, but that's mostly because I played Star Wars: The Old Republic. And you would have a newbie with you who's going through a flashpoint and they've never heard the story before, and everybody else in the group has. So they're sitting there saying, spacebar, spacebar, spacebar. And the poor newbie's never heard the story, but he's feeling pressured to hit spacebar so they can go running ahead. So I'm not a big fan of skipping the dialogue, but what I will say is if you're going to put in dialogue, it's got to be quality dialogue. It's that simple. I've never had a problem sitting for 5, even 10 minutes listening to something if it's well written. But if it's horribly written, I have a problem sitting for 10 seconds. That's the difference. It comes down to writing quality for me. If you do a proper writing job, I'll sit there and listen to it. Like, one of the things I loved in Mass Effect, the first game, was riding that stupid elevators. Because you'd go into the elevator with 2 companions and they would just bicker back and forth to each other. You weren't involved. And I loved it because they were interesting. It was well written and they were interesting. They weren't just bickering for the sake of bickering. They were interesting. They had a story. They had a point of view that fit their characters. So, yeah, I kind of don't agree with them on this one. But, I mean, every player is different, and that's what it comes down to. We all have our preferences.
But one thing you just do is let me read these lore dumps, put it in a book or a note or a computer file or a log, and let me read it later if and when I ever care about it.
Okay, I absolutely 1000% disagree with them on this. I don't want to read in a computer game anymore. I don't. I want to, like, the log is fine. Put it in a log and I'll hit the log and listen to it. Like, Mass Effect drove me nuts on one thing is, like, you'd put it into the codex, but the codex, you had to read the codex. It's like we're in this science fiction universe with all this technology and computers and robots and AI, and I have to read the codex. The codex is not a computer voice reading the entry to me. That drove me absolutely nuts. It was the same for Deus Ex, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. Love those games. They're in my top, well, Deus Ex is in my top 5 of all time. Human Revolution. Mankind Divide's a little bit lower. But you'd get these entries like on a tablet or something, and you had to read it. And I don't want to read in a computer game anymore. I'm old enough to remember when we had to read everything and type everything. So those days are well behind me. I don't want to read anymore. I want to hit a button and listen to a computer, a simulated voice, whatever, read it back to me. It's like I don't read books anymore. I buy audiobooks and I just listen to them now and I enjoy them. Like I'm almost 60 years old. I don't want to read anymore. I still want the information. I just don't want to read it. So I disagree with them here. Don't put it into a lore dump that I have to read because chances are I won't read it and then I'm going to miss out. Put it into a lore dump that I can push play and listen to.
That's a fix that's been in games for decades. Use it. Now let's talk about Rails. You know what I'm talking about when a game's on Rails. I'm talking linearity here, the bane of my existence. This can be story Rails, where the game doesn't let you get off of the story, the main story. Everything that exists to advance the main story. It could be level design Rails, where you go into some area and it looks like you can go lots of places, but really all the doors are locked except the ones they want you to go through. Or you're in a big open area, but you're in a canyon, so you really can't go anywhere. You're stuck to go in this one particular path. To every designer out there who likes doing that, I just want to look at you. I want to shake them and hold their face and just go, have you ever heard of player agency? What part of player agency do you not understand? Because the moment your design says, quote, and then the player does this, unquote, you've lost me. I'm out of here. And I always tell those designers, you want to tell a story? Go write a book. Go make a movie. This is a game. So my recommendation here is make your game a series of goals for the player to achieve and not a series of actions you're going to force them to take. So an example for that is, hey player, go find the lost Ark. That's your goal. It's not go kill these soldiers who are guarding the Ark and then open it. Don't tell them what to do, or how to do it. Just tell them what goal they're supposed to achieve and let them figure out how to do it. And that's the whole point here. Just let players achieve goals however they want. And then you can add lots of skills and lots of abilities, and players can figure out how to do the quests themselves.
So I agree with them on this. Rails drive me nuts for the most part. Now, there's been some RPGs I enjoyed, like Knights of the Old Republic. That was an on-Rails game. Jade Empire, that was an on-Rails game. You followed the path BioWare wanted you to follow to your objective. But the difference is those characters were so well written and the story was so well written, you didn't mind the rails. The immersion kind of made you forget about the rails. Whereas like one of the weakest MMORPGs I ever played was D&D Online, because this game was designed around rails. You had this city as a main hub, and from the city, you'd go to this entrance and it'd shoot you off to a dungeon. And you'd do the dungeon and you'd shoot back to the city. And that was the entire game. Like I remember going into this one section of the city and standing on top of a rooftop looking out, and you see all these vast forests and hills out past the walls that you can't get to. And I'm like, I want to go adventure there, but you couldn't. So I only played DDO for, I want to say about 2 months, maybe 3 on the outside. And then I was done because everything was on the rails. It was so confining and stifling and ultimately boring, and you see this in RPGs as well, where they're like, you have 5 choices, but it doesn't matter what you take, what choice you pick, it's all going to end up on this choice. So the choices are an illusion because you're going to end up here. And that's what he's talking about. It's a straight line rail. If you're giving me choices, I want the choices to redefine where I'm going. The Witcher 2 did this actually pretty good. Is who you sided with changed what part of the game you experienced. So you would play it this way, but then you could replay it and you could go this way and this way and this way. And, they were still very linear paths, but there was enough difference that it wasn't always the same adventure every single time through the game. It's one of the reasons why I'm so pumped for the upcoming RPG Exodus, because this is what they've promised, is that choices matter and choices affect your game. And I can't wait to experience that, because I've been asking for that for a long time. Oh, and the other part of what he had said is doors that you can't get through. That I love Cyberpunk 2077, but that drove me absolutely insane. You got this big, massive city, Night City, yet 95% of the doorways, even though you're a security specialist that can unlock any door, you can't get through these rickety apartment doors into the apartments or the buildings. It drove me absolutely insane. It's like you got this big, massive city, but I can't explore it. I can only explore 5% of it. It drives me nuts to this day. And I consider Cyberpunk 2077 to be probably the 4th best game I've ever played in my life. But that and the forced first person, those 2 aspects drove me absolutely positively insane. I didn't like them. I'll never like them. And honestly, if CD Projekt Red forces first person on Cyberpunk 2, I'm not pre-ordering the game. I'll wait for it to go on 50% sale, because I didn't like being forced into first person. I have, if you can see it, I have VR. So I don't need first person for immersion. If I want immersion, I'll play my VR. That's immersive. First person is not immersive. It's confining. When I play a RPG, I play third person. And it just goes with what he's saying, is like, give the players a choice. I've long said, in today's day and age, the technology we have, there's absolutely no reason to mandate third person or first person. Give the players a choice with what they're comfortable with and let them play it the way they want to play it.
And then the last one's a little different. And it may be surprising to some people on here, but I want to talk about cities. And by that I mean cities, towns, even large villages. These are usually big. They're full of NPCs who do nothing but get in the way. You can't talk to them. They don't have any quests to give out. They're not merchants. They just exist to kind of be decoration. So your city looks like there's people living in your city. The problem I would have with cities is, if you take the majority of the player's abilities, spells, skills, special class abilities, if the majority of them will get the player in trouble with authorities if used in a city, why is that city in your game? Why did you give the player all these things they can do and then make them get into trouble if they do it in your city? And I will talk in a second about one exception for that. But most cities are just quest and sales hubs. That's what they exist for. They exist for the player to go back, talk to people, get their quests, sell stuff they didn't want, buy stuff they do want, and then leave. So just make your city easy to do that. Streamline that experience. Make the quest givers easy to find, and don't put them behind multiple instances that have to be loaded. Put merchants near the entrance to the city, so if people want to waddle in with all the stuff they just got from the dungeon, they can sell it right there when they arrive at the city. Because my firm belief is the fun is in doing quests, not all the pre and post work, it's almost paperwork, busy work that you have to do before and after the quest. So what you should be asking yourself is, why are you adding this city or town into your game? If you don't have to, like you don't need a quest hub and you don't need merchants right there, don't add it. Also, there are some games where the city is the play space, like you're an assassin and you're running around a city killing people, and that's supposed to be the fun. You are given abilities that will get you in trouble with authorities, but that's the game. But if you're making an RPG where you're supposed to go out and fight monsters and go into dungeons, then a big city is just an annoying place where all the stuff you've just been trained to do that's part of the core game loop is the very stuff that'll get you thrown in jail if you do that in the town. Anyway, that's my list of a whole bunch of RPG features that no one's asked for. Overall, if you make RPGs, please play RPGs. Play a lot of RPGs, and you will see ones that do this, and they really shouldn't. You will see what I mean when I'm saying there are RPGs out there with features that no one asked for.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I agree with most of what he said. And the difference with me is I'm not sure it's going to change in the very near future. I'm sure it is going to change because these companies are for-profit companies and they haven't been making profits recently. So we're seeing some companies start to already change, but not fast enough for my liking. Like, I have really high hopes for Exodus. I have really high hopes for The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, but I'm very lukewarm on Fallout 5, even though I am a Fallout fan. And I'm very lukewarm on Cyberpunk 2, even though I have Cyberpunk 1 2077 in my top 4 games of all time. And that has to do with the companies and them making the mistakes, a lot of the mistakes that he's talking about. You see it, they're refusing to listen to the players, and instead they're listening to activists and doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on the stuff that has been bringing problems to the genre. So yeah, we're going to have to see how this turns out. But I don't think making RPGs are all that difficult conceptually, like the programming obviously is. And it really comes down, for an RPG for me, it comes down to writing and character design. I don't want to be preached at in these games. That's a turnoff for me. I want characters that are bigger than life. Like Morrigan is a great example in Dragon Age Origins. Like, I was smitten with her and Liliana from word go. They were just so well written and so interesting. Visas in Star Wars: The Old Republic, or Knights of the Old Republic 2. Handmaiden in Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic 2. I'm not remembering their names, but from Jade Empire, those companions, like, these were all interesting companions. Nowadays, I'm hard, like, even in Cyberpunk 2077, you had Judy and Panam as love interests, and they were awesome, both of them. But they weren't really companions. It was mostly you adventuring by yourself. So you didn't have to deal with the companions. But in the companion games, I'm really hard pressed to think of a recent RPG where I liked my companions. I mean, I think I'd have to go back to Mass Effect 3. And that was well over a decade ago now. But, you know, the writing is so important in RPGs. And that's really what I find has really been lacking in the last decade plus, is the writing. And then following up with that, the character design. I keep saying the words, but I'm not interested in your politics. I'm really not. I am playing these games as a escape from reality. So I don't want to be hammered over the head with 2025, 2024 left-wing politics. I want to play a game where I completely forget about 2024, 2025, 2026 in a month and a half. Like, I completely forget about it. I'm invested in that world. And that world has nothing to do with this world. That's what I want. So anyway, what did you think of that? Let me know. That's my video for today. If you like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.